Monday Night Wars podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Monday Night Wars. It is June 23rd, 1997, and we are live with WCW Nitro in Macon, Georgia, at the Macon Coliseum. And with me as always, I guess I'm Scott, and with me as always is Joseph. Joseph, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. And Scott, you sound in perfect voice tonight.
Thank you. I got a Pepsi.
That explains it.
Yeah, it's my drink of choice. Anyways, we got our number one. We start off with a recap from last week where the NWO, you may be surprised to find out that we ended last week with the NWO defeating our heroes, leaving them crumpled in the ring, and it's just another night on WCW.
Yep.
But after that, Mean Gene wants to speak with DDP and Kimberly. Joseph, what's going on here? Tell me.
Well, Gene asks DDP, who's facing Mach and Hall, but he wants to know who's DDP's surprise partner. And DDP says he wasn't clear about it because he loves surprises and can't wait to see their faces. He also talks about tearing through presents on Christmas and his birthday. And honestly, that thing's really funny. It's one of the few, like, I don't really write DDP promos like verbatim like I do Mach and Austin, but this was a good one. Kimberly then is asked about it, and she, however, hates surprises and announces that DDP, after she made some phone calls to JJ Dillon, DDP going to have a match tonight against Scott Hall. This is a fun segment. I gave it a B.
Bang! It was a bang.
Yeah.
I wrote that down. I just write bang in big bold letters when there's a bang. Anyways, after that, we got a tag team match. We got La Parka and Damien versus Public Enemy. What the hell is going on here? This is like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Well, it's time for America's favorite game show. Do they use tables? Yes, they do. Mark Curtis is distracted by this, and La Parka uses a chair on Johnny Grunge for the surprise win. I'm giving that a C because we like La Parka, no matter who he attempts to kill.
Yes. I mean, man's got a gimmick, and he's sticking to it. After that, Mean Gene wants to talk to Eddie Guerrero because he's got some moral issues with Eddie sending Chavo, Guerrero Jr. Out to get his behind beat by Dino Malenko. Joseph, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, he asks if Eddie blames Malenko for when he tore his pec. And he wants to know, like you said, why Chavo? Why'd you send him out? And Eddie wants to get some things straight. Eddie's a stand-up guy, and I believe that for one. I have seen Eduardo Guerrero multiple weeks in a row, stand-up guy. He wasn't medically cleared, and Chavo was there, and Chavo offered, "Hey, I'll take your spot." And Chavo comes out, and he says, and this is outrageous, and I think maybe Chavo not a stand-up guy because he says he did not offer to take Eddie's spot. And I think that's insane. Eddie says, "Hey, hey, look, let's let bygones be bygones, okay? I had a shot at Six's Cruiserweight championship tonight, but I'm offering it to you. I'll make up for what you had to do last week." And Chavo's like, "Well, on the one hand, I don't kind of trust this guy, although I think Chavo being the crazy one. On the other hand, though,
Yeah.
I do have a title shot, so he's a little wary, and he decides to accept it in the long
Stop.
run. I gave this a B. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, when the man offers you a title shot, how can you say no?
Right?
It makes perfect sense to me. And I will also say, so far, I don't hate anything that's going on
Yeah.
after our first match. After that, though, we get another match I don't really hate.
Mhm.
We got Alex Wright versus Chris Jericho. And this one, about 5 minutes. It's like 4:45 or so is what I got on my little stopwatch here. So tell me about it.
After a hard-fought battle, Jericho locks in the walls of Jericho for the win. So Alex Wright's push is over. Now somebody is gonna say, "It wasn't the walls of Jericho, that was the Lion's Hammer," because I know that's his finisher at this time. I agree. However, the dude was not freaking horizontal or vertical, rather vertical. He wasn't vertical up and down, and he wasn't getting bent over his neck. That makes it a walls of Jericho. So this person who actually hasn't argued with me, but I'm making sure preemptively I argue with you. You're wrong. I'm right. Anyways, I liked it. Got to see.
Mm. It was gonna be me. So anyways, yeah. Yeah. It was another good match.
Yeah.
We've had, the Public Enemy match was
Surprisingly
predictable, but
decent.
not
Yeah.
because Laparca. Yeah, because it didn't end with the table. We got the chair shot, and people are like, "Oh, you get tired of the tables, but you don't get tired of Laparca's chair." No, I don't. And then we cut Alex Wright
Listen. We
and
make the
Chris.
rules and we will break them.
I love Laparca and the chair,
Yeah.
so it's never gonna get old. And then
Also,
pretty
if
good
you
match
don't,
with Alex Wright and Chris Jericho.
also if you don't like
Go ahead.
Laparca, like he might try to,
He's done it.
yeah,
He's done it before.
yeah,
And after a lot of deduction, we confirmed it was this Laparca, not one of the 15 other Laparcas
yeah.
that they seem
And
to have.
we
Oh,
can
yeah.
hate on Public Enemy because like what are they gonna do?
My God. Talk about bleeping swearing here, and now you're, like, speaking ill of the dead. What is wrong with you? It's way past your bedtime.
It is, guys. It's very
Anyways,
late.
we've got a video recap of Vincent costing the Steiners the victory. Harlem Heat got the win. It made them number one contenders. But J.J. Dillon says, not so fast, because I enforce the law when it's the WCW people breaking it, just not when NWO does it. So there's going to be a rematch tonight between the Steiner brothers and Harlem Heat. And that is our next match. And it's about 8 minutes. Tell me, Joseph.
Like you said, number one contender match. This is a fun match again. And there is no way this is going to have a definitive ending, is my first note. But let's see. Let's see. As I travel through my notes that I took forever ago and I don't remember, let's see if there is a definitive ending. Booker T runs into Sherry on accident and Rick Steiner capitalizes for the win. Then Vicious and Delicious come out and Buff Bagwell says he has better arms than Scott Steiner. This will become a storyline going forward where Buff Bagwell keeps being like, I got a better body than you. And Buff Bagwell got a fine body. But if we're comparing one, allegedly steroid body versus another allegedly steroid body, like Scott Steiner better. Anyways, I mean, it's freaky, but it's better. Scott Norton says they don't care and they aren't scared. And then they leave. And then Scott and Rick Steiner join Gene saying they want Hall and Nash next week. It's kind of all over the place, but it is fun. The match is good. You do have a wrinkle of like, hey, we didn't really lose clean. So maybe they do something with that. I don't think they will. Gets a B. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, is J.J. Dillon? Are we going to hear from J.J. Dillon about this? Because, yeah, kind of a questionable finish here.
Maybe J.J. Dillon is just racist.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was thinking it.
Farooq making some points. It's different company, but he making them.
It's the state of wrestling in the 90s, bro.
It is. It
So
actually
let's
is.
just call it for what it is.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We will see. What we'll also see is an Ernest Miller hype video that Mike Tenay has to do the voiceover on. And it's just Ernest Miller doing karate because he's Eric Bischoff's friend and they're pushing the hell out of him. The heck out of him.
In his defense, he is a world karate champion. So let's give him some props. The vignette's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. I didn't grade it. It's a vignette. These happen all the time. I'm letting it go.
We got Saturday night, 6:05. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
They got it. They got some people. It's fine. After that, we got our next match. And it is another banger. Because it's got a Vano. Hector Garza versus Vano 4. Tell me about this 5-minute absolute barn burner.
Hector Garza hits a corkscrew plancha that really just kind of ends up being a corkscrew headbutt on a standing Vano 4. It is from the top of the rope to outside of the ring, and Garza almost kills himself doing this move. Then he wins with the standing moonsault. The match itself is fine, but that spot, I genuinely was like, did I just watch a man die? Good to see.
I loved it. The only thing I felt that this match was missing. Can you guess what this match was missing?
A victory for Vano 4, or hold on,
No.
hold on. Let me take that.
You know what it is.
Let me take it again.
Okay.
It is a victory for Vano 4. However, it is a victory because he goes under the ring and another Vano fresh pops out and gets the win.
The only thing this match needed was more Vianos. Every Vano match should have multiple Vianos.
Yeah.
Because it's such a funny angle that they do nothing with. There's 8 of them.
Yeah.
Use all 8 of them. Because I think, to be fair, some of them are older, but I think at this time in 1997, they're all still active. I don't think
there's at least 4 of them for sure. There is a couple matches where they will have multiple of them in the match.
Yeah.
But it's this could be a thing.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
There are a couple of them currently that are active, and I need all of them. And the ones I can't have, I will recreate in the aggregate.
Recreate them in the aggregate.
The what?
I'm gonna have all of them. Anyways, they're like Pokemon. I want all the Vianos. Hour number 2. Mean Gene wants to talk with Lex and Giant, and they want to tell us their version of what happened last week and what they're going to do to the Hulkster and the Hot Rod, Dennis Rodman, because that's one too. He's also a hot rod, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Why not? At Bash at the Beach. Tell me.
Luger says every family member and friend of anyone in the WCW is sick and disgusted by what happened last week. He tells us that all of WCW will watch their backs at Bash at the Beach. He says revenge will be sweet and that Hogan is a quitter, but he and the Giant are not. Giant says everyone says he is lucky to be in WCW and to have his size. But he says what makes him lucky is that he will stick a giant hook in the worm, because that's Dennis Rodman's nickname, the Worm. He also says
that's pretty clever.
It is. I actually liked it from the Giant. He also says he wants to play a game where he slaps Rodman and Hogan and sees whose hair dye comes out first, which actually kind of like that one too. I lost focus on this at this point because I noticed what a professional Gene is. I think some more stuff happens, but I'm going to talk about the professional that Gene is. He realizes that Lex, for some reason, seems to be getting uncomfortable, and he's kind of sliding out of frame. He's kind of pacing back and forth, and he's sliding out of frame. And without even looking at Lex, he's focused on the Giant. Without even looking at Lex, who's on his left side, he just gently puts his hand on his back, pulls him back into frame, and Lex, who was pacing back and forth, just calms down instantly and is back to where he needs to be. This segment is a C, but Gene, you a stud.
What a guy. I don't think Gene has done anything that we can really fault him for. I mean, he does a little bit of the about the ladies.
Yeah.
But it's not it's like old, it's just like old man kind of stuff. It's not like pervy like what Jerry does. It's just I let it slide.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's more comedic when he does it. He does it kind of like Looney Tunes, like the eyes come out, the kind of stuff, versus it's more comedic than Jerry just being nasty. So I let it go. Gene, what a professional. I had one of your hamburgers and I liked it. After that, and you got my Mean Gene action figure, which I'm pretty sure I got at that restaurant. So that might be worth something if you can figure out, if you can find it anywhere.
You know what? It is worth something, actually. I looked it up. It is priceless because it was a gift from you.
Damn, he says that, and then he sold like 2/3 of the figures I got him because I don't collect these ones.
Well, I gave them to people who do collect them, and now they have them, and they're very happy. And I sold them for very cheap. It was like $20 for the whole lot. I was nice about it.
Up their butt. They're probably putting them up their butts or something weird. Anyways, speaking of which, WCW Cruiserweight Champion 6 versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. 6 minutes. Tell me about it.
I'm sorry, 6 versus who?
Hi, Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Chavo is never going to win here, but he does get a strong showcase that he really hasn't gotten to this point. Paul, of course, interferes and hits the outsider's edge on Eddie, who just watches from the stage. 6 locks in the Buzz Killer for the win. Eddie just shakes his head in disgust. We have seen this happen weekly. I complained about it last week with Rey Mysterio. We have seen the same thing where 6 goes against an opponent, usually Rey Mysterio, and this exact same thing happens. However, this time, I do like the Eddie wrinkle, and I like Chavo getting a shot to showcase himself. So I'm giving this one a B.
It's all right. I mean, it's all right. I agree that, again, this is kind of the typical NWO finish to a match, which I complain about. But overall, there's an angle here. There's the Eddie angle. He was gonna lose.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow it. What I'm not going to allow is Conan versus Steve Mongo McMichael. It's like 3 minutes. Tell me about this match.
So who interferes in this is my first note. Hugh Morris or Jeff Jarrett. Speaking of Jeff Jarrett, apparently he is on probation from the 4 Horsemen. They've announced he's on probation. He is technically not a horseman right now. To answer my earlier question that I posed, it's Hugh Morris who comes out with a broom handle, and though he never makes it to the ring, he does distract Conan, who turns into a waiting Mongo who hits a tombstone pile driver. I'm okay with this. I gave it a B.
Yeah, it's really not bad. I was giving it a hard time because normally Mongo's Conan matches are not, but Mongo's growing on us.
That's true. Not now, in like 5 months.
No, it's true. Yeah. He's never a particularly good wrestler, but he really starts what I feel like later, which we'll get to. He just really sells really well. I'm pleased with how well he sells for other people. And that to me is one of my biggest tests of a wrestler is how willing you are to sell for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a team player. So I'm kind of like, all right, Mongo, I see you. Anyways, what I don't see, or at least don't want to see, is Benoit and Sullivan going at it again. But we get a video package hyping their match at Bash at the Beach. Boy, howdy. This is the low point of the night. I don't know what could bring us back to the mountaintop.
Before we get into what could before we could possibly get into that.
You want to talk about this?
I do, because this is so bad. I mentioned with the other one that the vignette, I'm fine with vignettes. Inherently, I'm fine with them for the most part. But my God, hindsight is 2025 in this. It starts so badly. It's all ominous music, and it's Benoit walking very in slow motion, staring just daggers through the camera. And then it zooms in on his face and it goes to a negative filter. And it's like, man, this is how every murder documentary from the 90s started. Like every single one of them was like, everybody thought he was nice until he wasn't. And it does that, and it does it multiple times. And I was like,
Oh.
oh God, what am I watching?
What did they know?
Wow.
What did they know?
Kevin,
That's all I'm asking.
I can't make that joke. I can't make that joke. That is a not
Don't
on
do it.
podcast. That's
Don't
not an on
do it.
podcast joke. I will text you that joke later. That is not appropriate for the podcast. Woo!
Wow.
It was
Wow,
a
we're
bang- it was a
gonna get
banger.
comments now. Like,
It was a banger.
what was the joke? Yeah. Oh, people are gonna be upset. Anyways, but they can't be upset about our next segment because it is on the road with Lee Marshall, who is in Las Vegas. He's like in a real city.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
like WCW plays a lot of southern towns like I've heard of, but I'm also kind of like they're going there?
Yeah.
I've heard of Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a place you expect a
Yeah.
wrestling show to be at. So tell me about Lee Marshall in Las Vegas.
Well, Lee tells us that only the best of the best perform in Vegas, and that some of the biggest fights of all time have happened there, as well as where some of the biggest names in show business perform. He says, to that point, Bobby Heenan, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is that Vegas is still considered the home of the Rat Pack. But the bad news is that he looked all over Vegas, but could not find a show called Weasels on Ice. Bobby then says, I'd like to push him off the Hoover Dam. And I laughed. It gets an A+ for me.
It's great.
Yes.
After that, we got Mean and Gene, who wants to talk to Roddy Piper again about his upcoming match with Ric Flair and whether or not Ric Flair can be trusted. Do we get an answer here, Joseph? Do we get an answer?
Yes, technically we do. In a very weird way. Piper says he is here to do what he does best, and that's making bacon. Apparently loves breakfast. Anyways, he says he's closer to Mr. Freeze than he is Batman. Okay. When I'm good, I'm good. When I'm bad, I'm better. And I like myself when I'm bad. Piper says at Slamboree, Flair abandoned him. That wasn't at Slamboree. That was at Great American Bash. He says he asked Flair if he betrayed him. Flair said no, so he believes him. But Flair does have his quirks. Then Flair comes out. Flair says Piper is his friend, and he will stay by his side. He says his decision at Slamboree to chase Six out was for their best interest. Again, I can't stress this enough. It was not at Slamboree. It was a week ago.
It left as much of a lasting impression on them as it did us. They've already forgotten it. It's just out.
Oh man.
They do it. They do it a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So Flair insinuates that Piper was sleeping with Jenny McCarthy, which is a wild thing to say. Again, I think Piper, like, notoriously a family man. Also, like, if in case you are young and don't know, Jenny McCarthy was an icon at this time along the lines of like a Pamela Anderson or Marilyn Monroe or people like that. I'm trying to be a little bit more clean on this so kids can watch. But if you know those names, know those faces, that's kind of what Jenny McCarthy was in that kind of realm.
She was Playmate of the Year.
Yeah.
If that tells you.
Also,
Dad, what's Playmate of the Year?
I will say, she seems to have, yeah, we don't want parents.
Fricking.
Anyways, so I will say,
wow,
I've never heard anything negative about her. Like, 'cause she was very famous. Like, she wasn't like, oh, if you know, you know. Like,
Yeah.
everyone knew who she was. And so I've only ever heard positive things about her. I think she's now like humanitarian or something like that. Anyways, Flair, like I said, insinuates that. And then Flair says, "Don't push me though. Don't push me, Piper." But he hasn't pushed you. He hasn't pushed you once. In fact, he's been defending you the whole time. And Piper is as confused as I am by what's happening in this segment as Mongo and Benoit come down looking pissed. And Flair is like, I was trying to help you avoid this, Piper. And Piper goes, avoid what? Same, Piper. Same. I have no idea what's going on here. Piper has repeatedly defended this man. And they're like, I can't believe these accusations. He's like, I haven't said anything. Piper says this is between Piper and Flair. So you two leave us alone and we'll be good, you know? And then Gene asks
Yeah.
Jarrett, Gene asks where Jarrett is, and Deborah dismisses him immediately. He doesn't matter. Mongo then pokes Piper and starts insulting him. And Flair is like, oh no. And Piper is like, look, I will throw down. Don't poke me. Flair is now trying to de-escalate this, and Mongo says Piper's going to stab him in the back, and he pokes him again. And then Chris starts insulting him, and Piper just goes, you know what? I'm done. I have been the only nice guy here, and he decides to fight them all. Then they beat up Piper, including Flair, and we get a fun duality here. Benoit has Piper in a crippler crossface, and Piper is being kicked by Flair and Mongo. They're both kicking Piper while he's in the crippler crossface. They're kicking him directly in his face. Now, Flair is landing the most ferocious looking kicks on Piper, but they're soft. They're super soft, and they just look like they have so much force. At the very last second, they barely tap him. They're perfect. And meanwhile, while this is happening, Mongo is just booting him in the face over and over. And you're just like, come on, man, learn from the guy right next to you. It's hilarious, but also this segment is dumb, and I gave it an F.
It's just chaos. And I don't really know what's going on. I still don't really have an answer. I mean, like you said, we kind of do because they beat him up. Whether or not he can trust Ric Flair, but like they got a match together, so
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know. But we got another tag team match. After that, we've got Glacier and Ernest the Cat Miller versus High Voltage. And this is just an absolute squash match. It's about 2 minutes, which is kind of sad because I kind of like High Voltage. Tell me.
But you know what this is, Scott? This is Ernest the Cat Miller's in-ring debut. Do the thing, Scott. Match is bad, and Mortis and Raph look on as Miller hits a jumping, spinning roundhouse, which is actually impressive. Raph and Mortis charge, but then decide not to. Gets Neff.
Yeah, I think like genuinely bad match of the night for WCW.
Yeah.
Otherwise, been pretty good. But yeah, it's a squash match. It's just to show off how great Ernest Miller is. That's pretty much it. Speaking of just doing something to show how great you are, Hollywood Hogan and Dennis Rodman got a video, and it's set, and they're doing Voodoo Child to it or something that kind of sounds like that, and because they can't legally do it, but you know they're kind of doing it, and there's that. What do you make of it?
I got no notes on it. I remember it happening. Don't care.
That's how good it was. Anyways, that leads us to our main event. Diamond Dallas Page versus Scott Hall. 3 minutes, 30 seconds.
Hall has no Nash this week, but he does Have a macho man. Kimberly leaves as she does not feel safe, and I agree with her. Hall flicks his toothpick at DDP, who responds by slapping Hall. It's a really cool back and forth. Heenan puts DDP way over, saying he has never seen anyone have the success DDP has had, starting as a manager and becoming a wrestler. Really high praise from Bobby the Brain Heenan. DDP is ready to hit the Diamond Cutter when Savage interferes and beats up DDP for the DQ. Hall hits an avalanche back suplex. Now, meanwhile, DDP is like all taped up, like he not doing too hot, so he all taped up. Then Sting is in the crowd and he's pointing his bat at Savage, who is stunned and on the top turnbuckle because he was going to hit the diving elbow. And then Savage stares at him and he stares at Savage, but again, he's all the way up in the crowd. It's like, what are you gonna do from all the way up there? And I'll tell you what he's gonna do. Absolutely nothing, because then Savage hits the diving elbow and Sting does charge the ring now, and Hall and Mach run away, and the show closes with Hall and Mach charging Sting, who bats them down, literally. I want to like this. I don't. Giving it a C.
It's, again, it's a little better because like Sting comes out and scares him away, right? So at least again, it kind of ends like every single night of Nitro ends, where the NWO reigns supreme. At least we kind of get some like, Sting, but we are 3-4 months ahead of where we are in this podcast in our private watch, and they're still doing this where Sting appears and swings the bat at people or whatever, and that's it. So how long are we gonna do this? I want stories to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know where they're going? Do you know where they're going?
To Monday Night Raw?
They're going to that's where they're going, to the Cobo Hall in Detroit, Michigan, June 23rd, 1997. Raw is War. And we got Vince and Jim Ross and Stan the Man Stastaic is dead.
Stasiak? Yeah.
Stasiak. I don't know.
Yeah.
They do a little rest in peace. He died.
Yeah.
Anyways, the Nation comes out. And Ahmed Johnson has joined. Tell me about that.
Nation 2.0 is so much better than Nation 1.0. Vinman asks, why, Ahmed, why? And Ahmed says, he'll kick all y'all. But why? Ask yourself why, white man. I had everything I had to do. I busted my butt, worked hard, and no one backed me up for a shot at the belt. But the Nation does. The Nation does back me up. He asks if Vince backed him up, and Vince says, you would have gotten your chance. And Ahmed says Martin Luther King Jr. waited and he got killed. All right. Let's just hold on.
That's kind of heavy, bro. That's kind of heavy.
When I think Martin Luther King Jr., I often think Ahmed Johnson. Anyways, he calls Undertaker.
Like, wow.
Yeah. He calls Undertaker a slave dog, and that he has no respect for a man who just does what another man says. D'Lo then says Ahmed was held down and these people turned their back on him. Vinman asks, why did Farooq form a new nation? He says, because the first one couldn't get the job done. He says, you will see strong, intelligent black men come together in this nation. And D'Lo says, there isn't a damn thing that can stop us. And Ahmed says, if Vinman crosses his eyes at them one more time, then he will wish he was never born. Vinman asks Kama if he's proud of his victory, and Kama says he's damn proud of himself and the nation. They are ready to leave when Crush comes out with his new crew on Harley Davidsons. Crush says he can't remember hearing so much crap in his life. He says Farooq never fired him. He quit. Bro, we all saw you get fired.
Damn. Yeah, we did.
He introduces us to DOA, the Disciples of Apocalypse, who live together, ride together, and fight together, and maybe do some other things together, you know what I mean? Everyone starts swinging. I gave this a B plus. I liked a lot of it until the Crush stuff, but I'm okay with what they're doing with Crush. Kind of. We'll see how it goes. It's like some days I like
The
it, some days I don't.
disciples. Yeah, they're the disciples of the apocalypse, and they're one of the new rivals for the new Nation of Domination. There will be another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just becomes a whole kind of cluster.
Well, it kind of becomes a race war.
What? Not yet? I mean, yeah, it kind of does. A bit of a race war on our hands.
Yeah.
But not yet. Not yet. After that, we got Ken Shamrock versus Rockabilly. Oh, WCW might win this week. If these are the kind of matches we can look forward to. And we got someone on color commentary, right? We got
I love what just happened. You saw the name and went, I don't want to read that.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
I saw you pivot. You were about to say Dan, and I saw you read the last name and went, no.
No.
That was great.
And it's one of those things where, like, I know this name.
Yeah.
I know it, but I don't remember how to say it. So tell me about NWA World Champ Dan the Beast. Take it away, Joseph.
Dan Severn joins on commentary. Severn is a former UFC
Of course.
champ and current NWA champion. Dan Severn went 101-19 in his MMA career, including being 1-1 against Ken Shamrock. So if you're like, did he ever beat other people? Yes, he did. In fact, he's kind of like a legend in UFC, in early UFC. Pretty notorious. He won 3 gold medals as well in freestyle wrestling for the U.S. Now, not in the big Olympics every year, but in different Olympic type competitions, world competitions. Shamrock obviously wins this with an ankle lock, and then he and Severn face off. And then they shake hands because they do have mutual respect for each other. I don't think this will become anything. Dan Severn will join WWF at some point. It's going to happen. I think it's 98 when that happens. So this, he will join. But this gets a B. It's fine. I like Dan Severn. I think the little mutual respect thing is okay. The match itself, nothing wrong with the match. Good TV match, so I'm cool with it.
I'm a big Dan Severn fan. I just wanted to make sure you were.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for knowing his last name, because that was a test, because I, of course, knew. Backstage, we got the Godwins, and they're apparently upset or something, and they're just gonna do what they want now. And it's like, haven't you kind of always been doing that? You got any more to add?
Well, this does go right into the match. So I'll cover both if you don't have any qualms with that. Henry says that LOD breaking his neck, they said it was an accident, but it didn't feel like one him, which is true. He does get his neck broken against Legion of Doom. They do the Doomsday device and he falls on his neck. Kind of dangerous move. Like, you got to everybody has to be perfect on it. The Godwins are now dressed purely in overalls, showing they are now heels. Ooh, spooky. Legion of Doom win sloppily with a diving clothesline. Godwins then attack them with the steel slop bucket, as it is referred to, and I love that. Animal grabs a chair, chase them off, but then the Hart Foundation attack them as Brett looks on. I was going to give this a C, but I kind of like the Hart Foundation stuff because they are beefing with Legion of Doom, and they kind of need them to not be Legion of Doom going into Canadian Stampede. So I'm giving this a B.
Yeah. And that was, I don't think I said that was a 3-minute 45. Let me see. Actually, let me see. I got, that's what I got in my notes. Let's see what they wrote down over on ProWrestlingFandom.com, because they usually time it better than I do. Let's see what we got here. They say it's 3:42. And the match before, which I don't think I gave, was 2:39. After that, though, we're in the crowd because we got a boxing legend. We got Tommy the Hitman Hearns in attendance. And the only reason I mention this is because Vince calls him the real Hitman. And I was like, wow. I'm sure Brett didn't like that. So Brett is watching backstage and furious.
In defense, there will be a payoff to that because WWF be giving payoffs these days.
Wow. But still, I don't think Brett likes it in any shape or form. Like, anyways, we got Paul Bearer and the Undertaker. And Undertaker's had enough. He's tired of this. And he kind of loses it, doesn't he, Joseph?
He does. He's about to cut a promo when Bear interrupts him like he did last week, saying it's about me, me, me. And this time, Taker chokes him. And Vader runs over and Taker chokes him too. Then Bearer shouts, the fire, the fire, the fire, and Taker relents. I'm giving this a B. This will get a payoff later on.
What does it mean? What does it all mean? I'm excited. Tell me more. Then we got Flash Funk versus Sabu.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is 4 minutes, 38 seconds. Sabu going to do something crazy, isn't he, Joseph? That's all that man does.
Probably.
May he rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Real quickly, Owen Hart does get a promo, right between this. It's very quick, where he just says it's a disgusting conspiracy having him have to face 2 men later on in the night for his title. And we will go back to that in a little bit. Flash Funk, Terry's brother, says Sabu may be suicidal, homicidal, and genocidal, but he is one of the great fighters himself. Paul Heyman is at the booth putting over Sabu. I forgot to mention this last time that they did a match like this, because I think Flash Funk went against RVD a few weeks ago. Flash Funk, known also more notoriously as Too Cold Scorpio, like he has done a lot of ECW work. So it actually is a pretty logical pairing to have him in these matches. Mm-hmm. Sabu arrives with Bill Alfonso, whose whistle has always been annoying. It's just, I get that that's the gimmick, but it's just more annoying than it is like adding to anything. Sabu eventually gets the table and he has to slam Funk 3 times to break it. He dives over it. Doesn't work. He dives again. Doesn't work. He dives a 3rd time and it breaks. I gave this a C. I would have given it a higher grade, but it's that was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and then Vince doesn't seem real thrilled by the whole thing, because he just at the end he just goes, let's move on. So it's just like, okay. All right. You can tell when something doesn't go right and Vince is kind of annoyed. That happens sometimes where he's like, something gets kind of messed up and Vince is clearly not pleased. And that, I felt like that was one of those incidents.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got a European champion match. Davey Boy Smith versus Mankind. Is this a championship match? Am I right? No, it's not. No. It's just Davey Boy Smith is the European champion.
Yeah.
I wrote that weird. And he's wrestling at Mankind, who comes out in an Austin 316 shirt. And on the back, it says, oh no, he has a sign. I'm sorry. He has a sign that says, "Pick me Steve." And I love it. We got the sock and stone connection here. Tell me, Joseph. Tell me about the match, which goes 4 minutes, 9 seconds. And tell me what you think about Pick Me Steve.
You mentioned about Mankind and what he's wearing, which is fantastic. It is fantastic. And we're going to keep seeing Mick Foley. I'm going to say Mick Foley because we're going to get some fun stuff coming up. Mick Foley really get to explore the other realms of his character. Austin, meanwhile, who is not around, gets a phone call from Vin Man. Calls him up, and Austin says, "Don't you ever call me collect again. I will reject the charges." Vin Man asks, when can we expect Austin back? Austin says, if it has anti in front of it, then I'm probably on it, meaning all of the drugs he has to be on right now to deal with a nagging injury that he has. Mm-hmm. He likes what Mankind is doing as a tribute to the greatest wrestler in the world and calls him a kind man, but a freak. That's a compliment sandwich. Mankind locks in the Mandible Claw, but Bulldog low blows him and then hits him with a steel chair multiple times over the back and the head. And it was like, ugh. Bulldog flexes and poses, and then Mankind sneaks up from behind him and locks in the Mandible Claw. Bulldog eventually uses the ropes to escape and run away, but it was a fantastic image. I'm giving this one a B+.
It's a pretty good match. I liked it, and I liked what Austin said about Mankind. It was really thoughtful.
Yeah.
It was one of the nicest things Austin has said about anybody.
You could tell that he kind of struggled to have to say anything negative about Mick Foley because that's how nice of a guy he is. He's like,
Yeah.
he's a kind man.
Yeah. But also a freak, But it's like, that's the nicest you're gonna get from Austin.
Yeah.
All right. It's one of the nice things you're gonna get. In the back, though, we got Owen now. This did happen. At least it's in my notes.
Yes, this did
We
happen.
got Owen in the back. He's upset with Gorilla Monsoon for booking him in a triple threat match. Tell me about it.
So he not only is he upset about it, but he doesn't like that, China's out there with Hunter, and he doesn't like that Marlena's out there with Goldust. He feels like he's getting ganged up on. He deserves his own person. And he tells Monsoon, I want Pillman with me. And Monsoon says, yeah, that's fine. And then he goes, no, you don't understand. This is a conspiracy. I want Pillman with me. And he goes, yeah, I just told you could have him. And he just keeps arguing. And then Pat Patterson is there. And Pat Patterson goes, did you listen to him? He said you could have him. And then Owen goes, yeah, you did. Because you a chump. And then he walks. And I laughed so he doesn't say chump, but it was like it was that kind of sentiment. It was great. That gets
Owen acts like he wore him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. It was great, Owen. Yeah. Owen. That's what's so great about Owen. Because Owen can be Brett. He can be the serious, technical, like, no nonsense wrestler, but he can also be a goofball. He has so much, just more, what's the right word?
Range.
So much more range, depth. Yeah. He can do anything. It's Owen Hart, best Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, hour number 2, that leads us into the match. We got Owen Hart versus Goldust versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. 3 minutes, 21 seconds. Tell me.
Real quickly, I am so tired. And then when I was taking these notes, I'm like screwed up all over the place. I do have this. I do have the notes, but I've got it labeled as Owen Hart versus Psycho Sid. That's how much I was just like out on this. But I do have the notes on this actual match. We get a very fun match, and Goldust wins.
Well, just replace Psycho Sid with which one are you missing?
Hunter and
which guy are you missing?
And Goldust. I'm missing both of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyways, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go on.
We get a very fun match, and Goldust wins with the curtain call. But Owen Hart's foot was on the rope. Pillman and Hunter are both pissed, even though Hunter's not part of the Hart Foundation, because they're both like, dude, his foot was on the rope, and he didn't win. And the ref's like, sorry, dude, my decision's final. That's it. Goldust is your new champion. And Gorilla Monsoon comes out, and during commercial, because he cuts commercial, we come back, we find out that during commercial, he shows us the Titantron, and he shows that indeed Owen had the rope break, and the refs couldn't see it from their point of view. So we restart the match. China hits a Hurricane Rana on Goldust while the refs are distracted. And I got to say, really impressive. Goldust has the win on Hunter, but Owen rolls Goldust away and pins Hunter instead. Pillman holds Goldust back from breaking up the pin, and Owen retains. This is a very fun matchup. It's got the swerves in it. It's great wrestling from all three men. Giving it a B+.
And Gorilla Monsoon laying down the law.
Mm-hmm.
Wish J.J. Dillon would do that. That's all I got to say about that. Afterwards, we got Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and they want to talk with Vincent K. McMahon. So tell me about this conversation. And is my face just completely frozen for you, or can you actually see me moving?
No, it is completely frozen, so we're just going to have to figure that out.
I look good. Anyways, it's a great look for me. Go ahead. Tell me more.
I hope it's this way for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, man. You can put like a South Park head on me where I'm just like talking just with like 2 parts of my head. Yeah. Anyways,
So
tell me about this.
Vince asks about upcoming opponents for the Hart Foundation at the upcoming Canadian Stampede. Brett downplays Legion of Doom's legacy as a tag team and makes fun of Shamrock and tells Goldust that his sisters could beat him up. He calls Austin the scum of the earth, so the Hart Foundation has replaced Hyena with scum. Hart tells them that they will get destroyed. He then calls out Thomas the Hitman Hearns, professional boxer who's in the crowd, as you mentioned earlier. Hearns would go 61-5 in his career, an incredible record. He is a former WBA welterweight champion, WBC light middleweight champion, WBC middleweight champion, WBO super middleweight champion, WBA light heavyweight champion, and WBC light heavyweight champion. He was part of the Four Kings, quote unquote, Four Kings in the 1980s with fellow boxers Roberto Duran, not sure which one because I wasn't watching boxing then, Marvin Hagler, who I do know, and Sugar Ray Leonard, who of course everyone knows. The Four Kings were a massive force in the lower weight classes in boxing during the 80s that helped keep the sport popular. These four men often fought each other throughout this decade. As often happens in boxing, Hearns had a controversial draw against Sugar Ray that saw him knock down Leonard twice in multiple rounds. Fans believed he deserved the victory, but he didn't get it. Anyways, back to this. Bret Hart claims that Hearns is a thief who stole the Hitman nickname. Bret says there is only room for one Hitman. If you want to prove yourself, come on over. Bret calls him the Chicken Man, and Hearns obliges at this point and he gets in the ring. They start mouthing off. Bret's ready to fight, but Anvil says, hey, I got this. And then he turns and Hearns knocks him down. Hearns gets separated by his team, and the crowd chants, USA, USA. This might be my favorite pure heel segment from Bret Hart so far. This is great heat targeting the hometown hero. I love it. Gets an A+.
I love it too, as you can listen to me playing with my USB ports here to see if I can get this camera working. I thought it was pretty good too. After that, backstage, we got Savio Vega, and he's upset about the new nation as well. So Crush and Savio are both disgruntled former employees of the nation. And Savio, he get beat up though.
Yeah.
They don't take too kindly to that. Anything more you want to add? Or should I move on?
It's simple, but it works. Gets a B.
All right. After that, we got more of this USWA ECW feud thing. We got Brian Christopher versus Scott Taylor. And Jerry joins us on commentary and then just talks a whole lot of crap about ECW. This match is 3 minutes, 5 seconds. Tell me about it.
Brian Christopher cuts a quick promo calling himself too sexy. The future tag partners, because they will be, have a fine, quick match that sees Brian Christopher win with a diving leg drop. I gave it a C.
And what you can't see is me. But I can see very clearly our next match, which is Vader and The Undertaker versus Farooq and D'Lo Brown, which is another match in our WWF Tag Team Championship tournament. Clearly, they did not have enough tag teams, so they're just making stuff up. 6 minutes, Joseph. Tell me.
Well, I will say this serves the storyline purpose. Bear tells Vin Man not to read into earlier. The team is A-OK. Vin Man tells the audience that Ahmed may be injured, and that's why he is not with the nation tonight. We obviously saw him earlier, but yeah, he injured. Anyways, this is essentially his tenure in the nation. It was literally this week. That was kind of it. When he does come back in a couple months, they kick him out, and then he's done in the nation. Because of the injury, he was supposed to face Taker at Canadian Stampede. This is true behind the scenes for the title. WWF has to pivot, which makes sense. And so they give the shot to Farooq. Just kidding. They give it to Vader, the white guy. This match ends by Vader pushing Taker, so Taker punches him, and Farooq takes advantage for the win. Bearer tells Vader to eliminate Taker, but Taker big boots him and then tombstones him, which is wildly impressive. Taker walks out. He starts heading up the ramp, and Bearer grabs a mic and says Taker made his casket. So next week, he will tell the world his secret. Taker, at the ramp, turns and he does his throat slit thing to close the show as the crowd cheers and we fade to black. Gets a B+.
Not bad. It's a storyline angle, but who wins this week? I feel like WCW was pretty good. I feel like this one is closer than normal.
This was
what do you think?
This is a very, in my opinion, a very good showing from WCW in general. Still going to Raw. I still prefer Raw in general.
Wow. You know what? I'm just to be different.
Okay.
Because I really think that I think it was a pretty good show on both sides, and I haven't given my WCW any love lately. I'm going to throw it to WCW. I'm going to say they win. We've got a split decision here. So the fans, a couple of you are watching along with us. So if you're watching along with us, let us know what you think. And you'll probably side with Joseph, because you guys always side with Joseph.
When is that ever happened?
About tag team finishers. They like 3D.
That is true. That is true. They did side with me on that.
Yeah. You can't see me, but I'm kicking rocks right now. Anyways, that does it for us. Thank y'all for listening. We really appreciate it. We, like, comment, subscribe, because that alone is what's gotten us so many subs on YouTube. It's not that Joseph's paying for advertising or whatever. Thanks for enjoying our dumb little do-it-yourself podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.